In a world of uncertainty,
Rivers jizzing in his pants, and then you bring up your wife in the next sentence. Like, I know where we're going. What is going on?
there is only one place you can turn for fair dinkum advice.
1 word, unbelievable. 2 words, holy shit. 3 words, oh my god.
A place where the undeniably American
It sounds so weird in like an Australian accent.
meets the undeniably Aussie.
Hey, let's stop the foreskinning for some absolutely wonderful segments later.
Where the analysis is solid
I, for one, was not one of those haters, as I picked a Rams victory.
Look, I think he can get over 150 yards in this game, easily.
Kick his ass, Tyler Bass!
and everything else is out to kill you.
There's going to be shrinking nutsacks all over the place.
Welcome to the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
So we're back, and of course I've got our consummate professionals, Manjot, the Ranchot, Melly, the public defender. Mate, welcome back.
Yeah, I'm back. I'm ready to defend a few players on this segment. I'm very excited to see
Whoa.
my public defender self is coming out today. Just be warned, boys.
Ooh. It feels like just yesterday I saw you, mate.
Yeah, same.
About this segment is none of you know what's coming. So that's my favourite bit, is I'm the only one who knows anything about it. Bobby Trees, good to see you back, mate.
Yeah, I'm
How's your knee?
I'm looking like I fought in World War One, mate. Like I look like I'm about 100 years old. I don't know why, but I wide receiver one of the Titans this year, mate. So looking for that back-to-back 1 seed.
Wow. Is Taylor around? Can I say good day?
Yeah, I'll go get him, mate. I'll go get him.
Okay,
No,
it's a whole day later. We are just as
He's
quiet
just taking a massive shit, mate. He'll be back later.
All right, Bobby. We'll check in with Taylor when he gets back.
Yeah.
But, mate, I've got to tell you, it is just so thrilling that Ian has come back, because after yesterday, where we literally spoke for 5 hours, this poor devil, we barely got any of the show done. And he's graciously come back to join us again. Thank you, Ian. It's good to have you back, mate. The Viking from the Aussie Endzone.
Not a problem.
And look at his name.
Couldn't keep me away.
Some C word.
We were playing a bit of games with names last night. I haven't changed Manjot's name yet. I might sneakily change that through the show.
Keep it
Don't
up.
you- I got keyboard now. Keyboard now.
Yeah,
It's like,
Keyboard's back.
Charge his keyboard.
Yeah. yeah, it's actually a new one. So
Oh, he's just gone and bought new ones.
yeah,
What an
but the
millennials,
old
man.
one's still down there.
Did you
Yeah.
They
break
never
the old
want to
one?
repair anything. They just buy you.
Ah,
Did you
Yeah.
break the old one?
I
Did you
mean,
actually
it's still
break it?
there. It's
Oh,
still
no.
there. Don't worry.
The most fun I ever had as a 20-year-old was when my keyboard's broke and I went outside and absolutely plastered it over anything.
That is exactly what I was hoping Manjot was going to say. He did, because I want this image in my mind of calm Manjot just fucking losing it and just smashing the shit out of keyboard like an 80s guitarist.
Just walk out to a wall and go, fuck you!
Yes!
Hey.
If you're ever going to do that, can you TikTok that for me, Manjot? It doesn't have to do
Yeah.
anything with football. Just put it on the show page.
Or just
Sure.
find a catchphrase to put in there. Yeah, like an alphabet soup!
Yes, something. All right, now I'm glad we've got that worked
Yeah,
out.
fucking
That's
hell, bad.
Hey, Taylor's joined us. G'day, Taylor. How was your big
Oh,
shit?
hey guys, how you going?
Yeah. Well, we heard
That's
you
lovely.
were taking a Lamar Jackson style shit.
Yes. That it's what I mean. I like to do what I do best in this world, and that's somewhere I do some of my best work. So I thought I'd just get it done, mate.
Yeah, Matthew Judon was apparently injured, but then he just had to clarify he was taking a piss. So
What?
just yeah.
I thought
That
you were
was-
about to say Matthew Judon was injured taking a poo.
Oh no.
You imagine. I mean,
No, someone said he was going to
Look,
the
it's happened
locker
to the rest
room.
of us.
I'd recommend fiber if that was the case.
Yeah.
It's a bit of Metamucil.
Look, we've all eaten some things we're not proud of, and it's just we've all had a bit of a battle on the porcelain.
I mean,
So,
I don't want to ask a name, but oh shit. So,
We're off to a roaring start.
Great chat. This is
Just
brilliant.
blue.
Chat.
How long? What are we in? 5 minutes in, and I've hit blue already. Let's go.
This is fantastic. This is what the people come for, though, Ian. So good to see you.
Yeah. Oh
Been through
yeah.
your initiation, and now you're just part of the furniture. Good for you, brother. All right, I'm going to describe this segment. It's called Which Bloke, because it doesn't get more blokey and Aussie than Which Bloke, unless we dive into swear words. And I mean, I was just not willing to do that for the Super. I think we can probably say them. But what I wanted to do here is present two guys, and either they've got pretty similar fantasy value, or maybe their NFL situation is kind of near enough to make them a real decision. If you had a gun to your head and you had to choose to keep one, who do you choose? And the idea is here, we're going to flush them up. We're going to get first take of everybody. We'll get some votes in, and then we'll work out who we need to investigate and who's the outliers. Are we already playing Which Bloke?
Let's do it.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
I got no notes, but I got the memory, so.
Every time I believed them a little bit this year, they've just kicked me right in the testes.
Manjot, myth, legend.
All right, you guys throw me into the fire straight away, but that's why I'm here.
Taylor talk time.
Antonio Brown's out there hanging out with Kanye West. If that's not an insane asylum handing the keys to the inmates, I don't know what is.
Maddie C.
This thesaurus is both terrible and terrible.
I've got nothing else.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
An award-winning segment in the future sometime. Our first Which Bloke is going to be, if I can work out what I'm doing here. Screen share. Yep, beautiful. Got my screen up. Beautiful. First one.
What are you doing?
I'm just trying to get it to move now. There we go. First ones.
Oh, easy.
First
Easy.
one. You got Dan
Yeah,
Jones, you got Jameis Winston, the two guys who, well, they're in spots where it's interesting to see what either of them are going to do this year because they've both got a lot to prove.
I'm taking famous Jameis. Easy. 100%. This should be a 3-0. 100%.
Well, come on, man. What? Just
Why?
Are we just
Because
Maddie? Do you want to talk here? Or what?
Give us a quick why.
How many of these have you got? Because we
Have you seen?
Slides. So just get the votes in and then we can go and kill people. But you got a quick why, Manjot?
Yeah. Have you seen how Daniel Jones has played on the Giants? He has just not really been great. I mean, he's had no O-line. He's had injuries around his team and everything. So he's had not really much of a chance. Whereas Jameis, he was lights out before he got injured last year in that dirty sort of tackle by Devin White. But look, Jameis, he's primed for a big year, I reckon. Olave, Michael Thomas, Jarvis Landry, they're going to have a great wide receiving trio. Kamara, obviously, catching passes from the backfield. I'm really high on Jameis this year. I'm taking Jameis over Daniel Jones any day of the week.
Wow. All right. Okay, Ian, let's send it to you. What would you go with this one? Are you doing the same?
I'm going to pick Jameis. I like Jameis. I've always liked Jameis. Everyone was really down on him just because of a massive amount of interceptions in 1 year. But it's hard to find a lot of quarterbacks that haven't done that. But I've always liked Jameis because I've always thought if you're going for you get 30 interceptions in a year, but also get 30 touchdowns, it means you're really just going balls to the wall and just trying to throw the ball. They're just going
LASIK.
To the sky, to the opponent, to everyone.
LASIK,
Balls
Jameis.
everywhere.
to the window, to the wall. But yeah, Daniel Jones, I don't know. I've just never really been fussed on him. I guess it's kind of a Giants thing, maybe. It's just like everything's a bit meh. You just get a bit blasé about it. Anything to do with the Giants, and then you've got this dude who I think is very, I don't know, middle of the road as well in terms of a personality. Like he's just not out there like some of the other QBs are. Even the ones on bad teams are sort of a bit more out there. So,
Well,
and then literally their own. The Giants, so their own media, Giants Wire, after the first preseason game, said Giants Daniel Jones solid but unspectacular in preseason opener. Like your own media is calling
it easy to be unspectacular though. I'm unspectacular on the reg.
I know, but it's like the one place that should be building him up and trying to get energy in is just saying he's just. Oh, hang on, there's another quote. Daniel Jones is awful. Scream countless tweets from armchair general managers.
Okay, so that's from the punters. All right, fair.
Yeah.
At least it's not from the general manager.
No, I do think it's a little. There's going to be some more interest in them. I think maybe sort of Dayball might have gotten a bit more interest back in in the Giants this year, but we're still going to be able to see it. So it's still Jameis for me.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
Yeah.
Is Taylor going to clean sweep this? Gee, I'm going to have to erase this from the annals of history if you guys are going to pan my my Daniel Jones prophecy.
Yeah, it's going to be a clean sweep for Jameis, mate. Like that Giants team's just going to be straight sphincter this year. Like they're going to be a bit better than last year because they legitimately cannot be worse. Like I've brought up before, what they had like 15 touchdowns all of last year. If they doubled that, that would be the league average. That's how like horrendously bad they were last season. I think Dable going there is going to help them, but I think it's going to be a longer process than Giants fans probably hope for. I think it's going to take them 2 or 3 years to really turn that around. And Jones just hasn't really proven that, he's got any consistency to his game at all. So I just don't think that offense is going to be great. I don't know if people actually quite give enough credit to the turnaround the Saints are going to have on offense compared to last year either. And like Manjot brought up that Jameis was actually having pretty good stats even before he went down. But have you seen the difference in their wide receiving core to what they had last year? What was it like Deontay Harris and Marquez Callaway? Like all these guys that were either really, really late draft picks or not drafted at all. And then you turn it around to we think a healthy Thomas, Chris Olave, and Jarvis Landry. Like it's just such a massive difference from 1 year in, 1 year out. Like it's an enormous change for the Saints offense. So I actually think the sky's the limit for Jameis this year.
Yeah, definitely. Kadarius Toney hype at all. Taylor cannot be moved on.
Yeah, no. Kenny Golladay, no hype.
And then just for reference, so the Giants were 4-13 last year, so they definitely could be worse.
When Taylor said that, I thought I could be a bastard and go, well,
they could be. Worse.
They could be worse in terms of record, but I can't see them having touchdowns.
0-17.
Incredible, they won 4 games.
Let's get that no-win season.
Yeah, let's do it, guys.
We can do this. Wow.
Giants will
get anyone to take up Daniel Jones. All right.
No.
All right. Lesson learned.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show. Manjot, myth, legend.
Who thinks they're going first this week, by the way? Hands up.
It's Taylor.
Oh, you're wrong. It's you, Manjot.
Yeah, I thought so. Oh, okay. Man, that is just a load of information. Lot of dumping right there, man. Yes, you gotta go for them early and then trade them. I was feeling that sort of vibe from Taylor. Taylor nailed, I reckon. Yeah, as someone who's living the pain of the Jimmy G experience still, just trade that man, please.
I just realised he, basically had hamstrings made of tissue. That was great.
A lot like mine.
Anyway, back to Manjot.
How about me with my Peyton Manning jersey that I got for Christmas last year?
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
It's an upgrade, but he's not going to be so elite. Oh,
Edwards-Helaire and Miles Sanders. These are both guys who are in kind of iffy situations. Edwards-Helaire has not really shown he's taking that whole backfield on his own. And he's now got a bunch of company. And Miles Sanders, while Taylor brought this up in the earlier episode around the Devonta Smith and Jalen Hurts stuff to say this is an offense who run the ball, but he has also not really taken that one. But a gun to your head, you got to take one, you got to leave the other. Who do you take? Let's start at the other end. We'll start with Taylor this time.
This feels like torture because these are just two guys that are these two are just in the middle of that running back dead zone that I just hate. And I talk about draft strategy and fantasy to avoid this. So I would like to pass. No, I'm just joking.
Shoot me now.
Yeah, that's pretty much how it feels. I'm actually going to take Miles Sanders here. And I understand that Clyde Edwards-Helaire, it's all hype in terms of offense. Like everyone thinks it's like if you legitimately just looked at the players and how they were going out there and yards per carry and stuff, it's Sanders by a mile. Like it's not even close. But everyone thinks of Clyde in this like Andy Reid run offense with Mahomes, and he just always gets hyped because of that. But he actually hasn't done anything like since he's come into the league. He's actually been quite terrible. And he's been given chance after chance here. They're not going to keep giving it to him. And I already feel like they're starting to split the backfield enough already. You've seen Pacheco coming out. looking like he's decent. Like Jarek McKinnon got pretty much all the work in the playoffs last year. I think Reed trusts him a lot. I can see this being split between three people at the Chiefs. And the problem I have with Clyde is he doesn't make big plays. Like he never breaks off like more than a 20-yarder. Like everything is just really small, like bits and pieces for him. And then he's too small to really get the goal line work as well. So a lot of the times he doesn't actually get the high value stuff. Whereas, like I know Miles Sanders, like he didn't have a single touchdown last year. But I just think in that offense, that he's so due for positive regression. It's not funny. So I'm actually going to give a slight edge to Miles Sanders. I really don't want to be drafting either of these guys. I feel like I've done a disservice to myself in my draft if I have to. But I would give a slight edge to Miles just because I like his offense better in terms of the running game. And I think there's a less chance of him being taken over by someone else.
Well, I'm going to shoot over to Manjot here and just say this is going to be simple, right? It's the guy who's wearing red.
Yeah, I mean, he
Isn't that
literally.
easy?
Yeah, it's too easy. Look, red, best color, as I said last episode,
Fuck off.
100%.
How can that be your
It's
argument
like,
for something?
fuck, you're full of shit, Manjot. Come on, tell us what you really think. Come on.
Yeah, look, what Taylor just said, I actually have no thoughts about either of these two because they're just guys I'm not even looking at, even in real life NFL. I'm just not even looking at either of them in terms of big name running backs. They're just mid sort of average sort of running back sort of
They're
stock.
starters on playoff teams. Wash your mouth out with soap.
Yeah, but look, CH, he's got a lot of hype and there's a lot of upside, but we haven't seen it. I'm just really concerned. We're going into his third year, and running backs, it's about now you got to start peaking in the NFL. You got to have to adjust to the game speed at this stage of your career. And CEH, if he doesn't break out this year, I really don't know. I really don't know if he can really get there. Now, interesting to look at some stats for CEH. He did have 800 yards in his rookie season, but then he lost 70 carries and he lost 300 yards in that, going from his first to second year.
And only three
Where-
less games, too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He only played 3 less games last year.
And
than he
all
did
that
this
work, all that work went away.
year. Mm.
It
Yeah,
started
and-
getting divvied up. It wasn't all his in the second year.
No. I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely not. I don't know. Which one are you going, Manjot? Definitely Sanders?
He hasn't voted. He hasn't.
Yeah, I'm actually really not sure because Sanders did have a better season last year, and I think I'm only just gonna lean with Sanders just because of what Taylor said. He had a better yards per carry by far, and Sanders in that run first offense of the Eagles, I think he'll play a lot better than a pass first offense the Chiefs have. So which would really bring down CEH's stats. So I'm going with Sanders in terms of fantasy value. But again, like Taylor said, I'm steering away from both of these guys. That's for sure.
I'm glad this one was a real moral dilemma for you there, Manjot. So that's good. Same with Taylor.
Yeah.
Does Ian have so much conflict? Because, I mean, if you're not fantasy drafting like these two, and, I mean, these guys have clearly been hurt by Miles Sanders and Clyde Edwards-Helaire over time. Are you carrying scars too, mate? Bring it in.
I don't know about scars. I don't know if either of these two could scar me. I think I would be leaning. I was already instantly leaning towards Sanders, and as I start diving a bit more in depth into the stats, it's I'm definitely leaning further that way. And I think for those reasons that Manjot was saying when we were talking about stats, then that was Edwards-Helaire's production was way down last year. Yeah, it's a tricky one. See, he's not going to if he's not getting the carries, and I know some. Obviously, I know little bits about fantasy. If he's not getting the carries that he was, and he's not getting the yards, then he's still missing some points, right? Am I? Yeah.
Opportunity.
Yeah.
Fantasy is a lot about opportunity.
Yeah. Whereas Sanders, biggest downfall. His yards were pretty average. He's gotten sort of like 800 to call close enough to 800 every time. Similar amounts of games played, similar amounts of carries. His problem is last year he didn't score any TDs in all that. So previous years he was scoring touchdowns. So, you're getting some points, you're getting middle of the road points, but not converting him to be a really useful prospect. But I still think I would lean towards Sanders if in a pinch, if I really had to. If someone had already taken every other running back that was worth their salt.
Exactly.
That's the point Caleb
This
brings
is
up
the
too.
epitome of the dead zone.
Everyone else is gone, and that's what
Yes.
you're left with.
If
He's got
I'm
wide
if I'm
receiver.
if I'm the unlucky person in some kind of, give me like a 16 team or 16 plus team draft, and I'm that idiot on the snake, and everyone's already taken all the running backs, and I'm left with these two, it'd be Sanders. I think it'd just be Sanders.
Yeah.
Because there's more opportunity, I think.
I actually had this dilemma, didn't I, in the last episode, where I chose Sanders over CEH, or CEH was already taken by that time. I chose Sanders, and I absolutely hated myself afterwards when Matty took Ayuk a couple rounds later, and I was like, I should have gotten Ayuk where Sanders was. Yeah.
Obviously, I don't know whether you were totally deliberate on it, but obviously they're two middle of the road running backs
Yeah.
that are behind two quarterbacks who really like their legs.
Yeah.
And definitely one more than the other in that respect. But because of the passing volume as well, that's the other thing that limits the volume of it for CEH, even if he's the guy who's on the field the most. And even that's not yet to be seen, right? They've just created that backfield up by bringing in guys like Rojo as well. Like, we didn't even mention him in that. And paying some money to come across. So I think, there's a bit going on over there in Kansas City. And Miles Sanders, this is the year he has to prove it, I guess. So I'm glad that it was still a sweep, which is a little embarrassing for me, but at least you were all fucking tortured. So one for Matty, one for the good guys.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Taylor talk time.
Because all I do is win, 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 no matter what. That's a foreskin right there. We'll foreskin that for later. That's on the first 5 pages.
Wowza. Mate,
Sorry, the first 4 pages. Foreskin. We didn't want to talk about it. You guys brought it up. It wasn't me, of course.
mate, we'll chat later.
Yeah. I didn't realise you can trade. I didn't realise it was a trade button. I don't do many trades, mate. So I always stay on the fence. I don't call him an absolute spud, and I never call him an absolute choker in the second half of years. So, we start with the Portaloo at the back when we just shit ourselves straight into the Portaloo, and then it goes into a hole, not even into an actual toilet.
Aussie NFL Fantasy.
Look, eat it, Mark Downey. I'm all Dolphins this year, mate, and you're going to have to make a lot of room because I'm not the smallest bloke in the world on that bandwagon.
All right.
Oh.
All right. We're going to up the ante a bit here. We'll go for some wide receivers who aren't just middle of the road or whatever. We've got Mike Williams, who had 780 touchdowns last year. Brandon Cooks, who had a bunch of volume because everyone else left in a defense, a team without a defense. There was just Davis Mills throwing it everywhere, like we were talking about yesterday. So I think these are two guys who they appear around about the same spot, both in our rankings now, but also in average draft position in fantasy. But if you are in NFL world and you need a receiver, neither of these guys are necessarily the guy who's going to, run away with your wide receiver 1 spot in a very competitive playoff team. But both of them are extraordinarily handy. And if you had to pick between one or the other, who do you go with? I'm going to kick it off with Ian this time. No time for you to read stats, brother. I'm throwing you in the fire.
I got plenty of time to read stats. I can flush through.
Fuck you, Matty.
I can flush through anything, mate.
Yeah.
Look,
You've been here 10 minutes and you're like, fuck you, Matty. I'm like, yeah, this guy's going to make it. He'll be fine on our show. Anytime he wants to come on, he knows the rules. Fuck you, Matty.
Yeah.
I don't look. Fuck. You are throwing me hard ones. That's definitely. It's still definitely. I think. Look, I'd lean instantly towards Brandon Cooks. He's been around longer. His production has been relatively. I'm still trying to find him, but yeah, relatively even, relatively normal every year except 2019.
Yeah, concussion year. Yeah.
I think he's done the job. There's average amounts of TDs in there as well. So good yards after catch as well. There's lots of good stuff. I think I would have lent towards Brandon Cooks instantly anyway, rather than Mike Williams. and I don't know why. I don't know why. Something in my brain is telling me that would be the way to go anyway. So we'll just stick with that.
All right.
Not much. There's not much for me to say on that one. I just don't.
He's got a gut feel. That's it. That's sometimes it's all you need. Gut feel.
I generally don't. And it's probably a fault of mine. I don't know a lot about a lot of Chargers players, which is a weird gap in my knowledge for some reason.
I'm looking forward to you inviting on my Chargers podcast later on. Then that'll be great.
Like you would have a Chargers podcast as well, wouldn't you?
No, Taylor does. He's in love with Justin Herbert. Those two. I don't know. You may have missed this. Actually, got married at the end of our first season. And he's got the bling, man.
Hey,
he's got the thing. So I'm going to throw it to Taylor so he can wax lyrical about his boyfriend's best man here, Mike Williams.
So
I don't know where you're going to go on this. I actually don't know, mate.
So I've actually got some good thoughts about this. What's actually funny, right? So in drafts, and this really makes sense to put these together because these two are going like back to back in drafts. But what's funny is they could not be more polar opposites if you tried. Like honestly, and to use a fantasy aspect for this, your draft construction completely dictates who you would take out of these two guys, right? So Brandon Cooks is going to be the most stable wide receiver in that area completely. Like he doesn't have a chance of being top 10, but he also to me doesn't have a chance of being probably outside the top 25. Like he's going to be right in between those two, and he's going to be the stabilizing force of your team. So I actually think he's a very, very good pick there in fantasy. But then you go to Mike Williams, who is probably going to have 5 top 3 wide receiver weeks this year, and he's probably going to have about 3 or 4 like outside the top 50. Yeah. Like he could not be any. These two guys are so different from each other. I'm going to say, like, obviously, again, if you're drafting a team and you want a wide receiver 1, I would take Brandon Cooks. If you want a wide receiver 2 or 3, you want Mike Williams because you want the deviation. You want the guy that you can throw out there in a really good matchup that could get you 25 or 30 points when you're weak. So in that aspect, I'm gonna lean Mike Williams because I'm just gonna go the better offense. I'm gonna go the Chargers offense led by my hubby Justin Herbert, who in that division that's gonna have at least probably 2 or 3 games this year that's gonna have at least one team score 40 points. Like there is going to be so many points scored in that division this year. And Mike Williams, I still think Keenan Allen is the one, don't get me wrong, but I think Mike Williams, the way they just paid him, I think he's going to slowly sort of take that step into the one eventually as Keenan Allen eventually sort of fades away. I'm not saying that happens this year, but it's going to happen eventually. So I'm just going to take the high upside of Mike Williams because I kind of know what I'm getting out of Brandon Cooks. But if you're looking for the guy that could turn into wide receiver 1 this year, Mike Williams is the only one out of these two that could do it.
Goodness. All right. I still, as you went on there for a while, there was just not sure where you were going to go. So I'm kind of
I know. They're two very close guys, but 2 very different guys. So it really depends on you got to pick your poison there.
Mate, you strung me along. It was like a cliffhanger. I was just wondering which way you were going to go. Manjot, I'm interested in which way you're going to go to. I've got a feeling. It's not. I wouldn't want to say before you said though, but I think I feel like I know where you're going to go.
Yeah, this is a very interesting one. As Taylor said, very polar opposites. Brandon Cooks, number 1 wide receiver, but his quarterback was a rookie last season, and they're just developing as a team, so he'll get a lot of volume. Whereas Mike Williams, he has Keenan Allen next to him, and we all know how much I love Keenan Allen. But
Taylor does too. Those two, they've circle jerks before. It's uncomfortable.
But Herbert, man, Herbert is
a good jerk.
The real deal. Compared to Mills, Herbert is miles better.
I like your face here as I was saying the circle jerk before, and your face just went from enjoying the conversation to quite disgusted. Sorry, man, just carry on.
Yeah, no, it's all good. It's all good. Now, I think you have a feeling which way I'm going. I think.
I reckon you got Brandon.
I'm going the way of Taylor. I'm going with Mike Williams. I'm actually going with Mike Williams. And I know a lot of people would expect me to go with Brandon Cooks because high volume. I'm always talking about a lot of volume, having more dependability. But I do love the upside of Mike Williams in this offense this year. I'm really excited. He has a lot more upside than Brandon Cooks. And I'm willing to take a fly on that any day of the week, to be honest, compared to Brandon Cooks. I mean, Brandon Cooks, don't get me wrong, he's an amazing fantasy football starter. He's probably a better receiver in real life, but also when you look at the stats, Mike Williams, his yards per catch, it's always above that 15 in average yards per catch every single year. The last 4 years, always above 15 yards per catch. And he got, 10 touchdowns 2018, 1,000 yards 2019. 2020 had a little bit of a down year, but still got 5 touchdowns and 750 yards. 2021, that's where he broke out last season. It was 1.1K and 9 touchdowns. This dude was amazing. And I think he got a well-deserved contract extension. He's just turned 27, so he's a bit younger than Cooks as well. So I reckon I'm leaning towards that Mike Williams side because I'm really excited about what his upside can bring.
And this is definitely situational because if you took those two players and swapped teams, this wouldn't even be a discussion.
Yeah. 100%. I think you're making actually a really good point about age too, because one thing that's mystifying about Brandon Cooks, he's been in the league 75 years, but he's like, 26 or something.
He's been traded like 88 times.
He's definitely had more teams than birthdays. That's true. It's extraordinary how young he was when he came in, but he's been around, what is he, on his 5th team now or something like that, and he's still fairly young, surprisingly young. So he's still got a lot of time in the league, and he hasn't really been terribly hurt. He had that 1 year where he struggled with concussions. Mike Williams hasn't been that lucky with injury, but bigger framed guy. They tend to just last. So I think in a dynasty situation, that would be an interesting conversation too. It's kind of not what we're here for, but I mean, I was so surprised that you went for Mike Williams. I think you make some great points about it, though. Wow, that's our first split. Okay.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Matty C.
Oh, let's get this out of the way first. Is there anything you all need me to say in my weird accent?
He is ready to go.
I did this to Taylor a lot during Grand Final in Astro League, and he was like, shut up. Shut up. Mate, I feel like I know who you're going to pick, so it's okay. Sorry, I'm still writing notes. I've just, so many times you said things that I think I could probably turn that into a joke, so I'm just writing it down.
Aussie
NFL
Fantasy.
They are a true arse sandwich. Bread, arse, bread. This thesaurus is both terrible and terrible.
I've got nothing else.
I'm trying to coax him to just be like, shut up, you dickhead, or have a crack at me, and he's not biting. That is the ice-cold worst take I've ever heard.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
Okay, we all good on Australian culture? This is our long suit, right?
How about Juju Smith-Schuster and Rashad Bateman?
Oh, ho, ho, ho. Dang. Wow.
Okay, I'm going to Manjot first because he's the only one who's making any noise. The other two are just like playing dead. They're like,
yeah, I mean, God dang.
Pick me. So I'm not going to pick you. I'm going to pick Manjot. What do you got for me, brother?
Big mouth guy. Yeah, this one's difficult because new situation essentially for both of them having to fight to be the wide receiver 1 on their team. And it's a really tough one. Juju, a veteran, but he's had his struggles. Rashad Bateman, he was a rookie last season. He's not really proven himself in the league, but he does have Lamar. Both of them have an MVP quarterback. Just before anyone accuses me of forgetting that Mahomes won in 2018, the year before Lamar won in 2019. So, look, they both have MVP quarterbacks. I'm going to lean towards Rashad Bateman, and that's a controversial take. But here's why. I think Juju against those first-team corners, the first-team corners like CB1s you're looking at, sort of those guys who go on your best receiver, him against those type of cornerbacks, he hasn't been as good. He had an amazing 2018, but that's because he was facing cornerback 2s when AB was on the team, just getting all the attention. Whereas Rashad Bateman, we don't really know about him. I still think he's going to get cornerback 1 treatment, but I think he's just the best pass catcher the Ravens have. I think they can use him a little bit in the rushing game too. I know I've been talking about wide receivers having some sort of rushing upside because I have a Debo jersey now. I know there's some magic, just poison, just been put in my head about rushing wide receivers, but
yeah.
it's just a run first team. He can have some sort of short yardage passes or maybe a few jet sweeps here and there. And he has a bit of a higher upside. I think Sky Moore is going to emerge as well in KC. He's a name to watch. This guy is going to emerge for KC, and that's where I'm really high on Sky Moore. I'm actually very high on Sky Moore this season. I think he's building a good rapport in training camp, as we'll talk about in the preseason show later. But Sky Moore's been building up with Mahomes a bit. I think that's going to affect Juju a lot. So yeah, I'll pass it off to someone before I just keep going.
Right,
Yeah.
one of the Bateman camp. I'm going to move to the man wearing purple because I think that, again, this is like the red thing. Manjot's literally sailed both guys in red down the river, by the way. Are you going to do the same for the man in your colour here, Ian?
It's 100% not the reason I'm choosing Rashad Bateman, but I am choosing Rashad Bateman. And I think that's more because I think he's got, when you talk about ceilings and floors, I think he has a higher ceiling than Juju does. He's got a lot to give. The Ravens and Lamar have already been talking about how good the chemistry is, and they've already tagged him, I think, pretty much as wide receiver 1. So he seems to be, making some good inroads there with the team, and I think he has a better future there. Whereas Juju, I mean, the Steelers didn't want him effectively, and he only signed a 1-year deal with the Chiefs. And as Manjot was saying, the Chiefs have got other guys on their roster now who are probably got a higher ceiling, probably even a higher floor than Juju. And he's really going to have to show up during the season, I think, to get an extension past this year, and to probably be better than if we were doing these two comparisons, better than Rashad Bateman will be. I think Bateman. I think the Ravens are probably going to go. There'll be a lot more passing game this season. I think you'll start to see that coming alive a bit more because other teams will have already figured out their run first offense way too much, and they know that they have to evolve at some point. And I think you're going to see this guy get a lot more carries and a lot more ball.
Now, Taylor, I know that you're not a believer in the world that Mark Andrews is all of a sudden this indomitable figure in the receiving game for the Ravens. But I also know that you love Juju Smith-Schuster.
Juju poo-poo juice?
That's the guy. Yes, big fat poo-poo. I don't know how you can go on this one because I think you've got your gripes with them as well. And this has been the theme with pretty well everyone I've brought up is there's reasons to poke holes in them. What do you got, man?
Well, it's another funny one where they're going near each other in drafts, but they're in two very, very different situations. So we don't know what the pecking order is going to be at the Chiefs. Like, to me, he's got the far better opportunity because he's at the Chiefs, who are going to be far better on offense than the Ravens. But I know Rashad Bateman's the one. I know he's going to be the one in the wide receiving core. Whereas I don't know, there's no way of predicting who's going to be the one next week in this Chiefs offense. I know it's going to be Kelsey, but in terms of the wide receivers, I have absolutely no idea. So it's a real sort of variance there. I slightly disagree with Ian there. I don't actually think the Ravens are going to pass more. I actually think they're going to pass less than last season. I think they'll pass more than what they did years prior to last year. I just think last year was a complete anomaly. Like, Lamar threw something like 20 or 30% more than he has any other season last year because he had absolutely no choice. They had no running backs. They were getting guys from the street basically to put in the running back system there. I don't think that happens again. I think it goes back to the mean and they actually pass a lot less than they did last season. That's my issue I've seen with Mark Andrews. This sounds like I'm heading towards Juju. I'm not. I'm taking Rashad Bateman. Just because I know his role better. If I'm picking someone in this range, I would rather take the guy that I feel more comfortable with, that I know his role. Juju could seriously be on the waivers like in week 1 or week 2, because if he comes out and he's just doing absolutely nothing, there's also a worry, and Ian brought it up. Like, he only got a 1-year deal. This guy, like 2 years ago, was like breaking records, and then all of a sudden, every single Friday, his knee's getting drained, and now all of a sudden, he's getting 1-year deals, and everyone's passing on him. I wouldn't be surprised if there's something we don't know about, there's like something to do with that knee. I'm getting the tinfoil hat out again here, but the fact he couldn't get a longer deal with anyone, and there didn't really seem to be an enormous like market for him. I'm not so sure he's completely healthy, and we'll find out pretty quick in that team. But I'm just going to take Rashad Bateman because I feel like I know what he is. And you are right, he has a bigger ceiling because he's a second-year player, and he could really break out into that Hollywood mold, and he could actually turn into someone better than Hollywood. We just don't know.
Yeah. Huh? And don't forget the distraction: Juju and Jackson Mahomes TikTok collabs. Just be careful. Steer away from Juju before you forget about that.
Essentially, I reckon that's why they only gave him a 1-year deal. That's the real reason for the 1-year deal. It's not his injuries or anything. It's to see if he fucks up with Jackson, and then
exactly.
He can leave. If it fucks up Pat again, no, we're not going to have those distractions. So I think at the end of the day, I think you're right. There's too many people on the Chiefs who are going to split all of that work, and I think that's very deliberate by Andy Reid as well.
Yeah,
he wants that to happen.
Replace Tyreek with 4 guys instead of 1.
Yeah, and you're going to really keep people guessing, because Tyreek is such a freak that it didn't matter that you went to him the majority of the time. He was always going to achieve. I almost think there's going to be a point where I reckon Kelsey's might get more targets, more receptions than some of these wide receivers on the Chiefs.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I don't think that's close. And sort of part of the reason why I thought these two would be compelling is they're both in offenses where the tight end is their wide receiver 1.
Yeah.
And it does mean that even at best, they're already the second best option. But, I mean, the other thing I thought about the Ravens too is if this guy is the big name in the Ravens receiving core, fuck, it tells you a bit about the Ravens receiving core. And that the Chiefs are really no different. They've got bodies, and none of them are extraordinary bodies once you get past their tight ends. So I sort of thought that was why it'd be compelling. And I was not expecting to have water douched on me 3 times, 3 clean sweeps. And Ian, the one who stuck his neck out on my boyfriend, Brendan Cook. So, I'll be taking Ian out for a nice fancy meal later on.
It's only because I threw Davis Mills at you in the last.
Now, I'd mentioned before you guys spoke about any of them too. This is not something that I'd created after I heard your guys' takes yesterday. So once the Davis Mills things came up, I did think I was going to have at least one friend with Brendan Cooks, but I still thought it was going to be Manjot, to be honest.
Yeah,
I did too.
Yeah, I fell for the eyes of the upside. That's what I fell for. The eyes of the upside of Mike Williams.
Wow. Okay. Thank you for playing around with Which Bloke. So at the moment, we've got Jameis on a 3-0 win. Can't believe Clyde Edwards-Helaire got douched 3-0 for Miles Sanders. Jesus Christ. Mike Williams in a 2-1 technical victory over Brandon Cooks, but a complete knockout for Rashad Bateman over Juju Smith-Schuster. Who would have ever thought that? Thank you guys for playing a game of Which Bloke. It'll be coming soon to every channel near you.
And he starts going like he goes absolutely mental and then like nearly explodes.
Like the game show version of playing Nick Kyrgios, though.
Ozzy?
So just to clarify, one team scores more points and they both lost to the Jets. So you have to take the team that scores more points.
Yes.
NFL?
You guys made me really thirsty with all those like trophy picks. Like
the trophy is making me thirsty.
Fantasy.
Who won starts the week, Warren?
Let's not talk about it.
Okay, fair enough. On to the next one.
This is what 20 years of being a Jacksonville Jaguars fan does to a man, I reckon.
I feel like this was so much easier when I wrote it down. You guys are making this sound so hard.
This is the Aussie NFL Fantasy Show.
But it was in the Brady era, yeah.
Everything's in the Brady era, mate.